All right, I'm going to do my best Tom Ritchie impersonation, even in my coffee cup with me. But we want to continue on with absolutism, and we got to talk about a couple things that are happening, including a really significant conflict that I'm going to actually have you watch a Tom Ritchie video on, uh, which I'll either link in this YouTube clip or the screencastify, and I'll link it in Schoology. So, a couple things from a peasant perspective, right? We talked about some of the issues that are going on and why governments needed to kind of maybe expand to handle some of these crises. But there are other crises also going on in the 17th century, more related to peasants and people, right? That governments are going to have to respond to as well. So, what do peasants face? Well, it's hard to move up the social ladder, is the first thing, right? Most land by this point is in certain families and owned, and that's how you accumulate wealth in this era. There's a threat of scarcity and famine, economic issues, right, which tie into the food scarcity thing, but high food prices, wages are stagnant, not growing fast enough, unemployment's going up. And so, I mean, we can relate to some of those things, right? When you talk about the Great Depression in U.S. history, more recently, the Great Recession, 2008. And then also, and hopefully you're seeing this as you fill out your sheet on absolutism in Austria, Prussia, France, and Russia. But serfdom is also kind of making a resurgence in Eastern Europe. Okay, and basically, it's really a form of slavery, right? Being tied to the land. You can see peasants tied to the land, and runaway peasants would be hunted down. And so, those are issues facing peasants, right? Lower class individuals, people lower on the social ladder. Now, one thing we got to bring up to understand this other major crisis happening is the Peace of Augsburg from the Reformation section, right? It was in Germany. It allowed local rulers or princes to pick either Lutheran or Catholic, right? Which faith are we going to follow? However, since this document's been issued, 1555, another section of Protestantism has gained prominence. And hopefully you're thinking in your head, I already know that answer. That's obviously Calvinism. And so that wasn't one of the options, right? So we have that going on as well. We have the Peace of Augsburg kind of not including one of the major Protestant sections from the Reformation. Now, ultimately, there's a clip here you can watch if you want on this PowerPoint, which is in chapter 16. I'm not going to show you this one, but it's a little 3-minute rundown of it. But we will get an event called the 30 Years' War. Okay, 1648, important date to remember. This war actually does last 30 years. So 1648 is the end of it. 1618 is the start. It ends up being or going from Protestant versus Catholic to more about a political kind of family dynasty conflict, as we'll find out. And you can see the Habsburgs are listed here, very important family in Europe, right? Control and have ties to a lot of sections of Europe. And so I'm going to let Mr. Ritchie explain it. I'm going to link a video guide for you, and then we'll come back and briefly talk about the ramifications and why this is such a significant war on the European continent. Stay tuned. See you in a bit.